Greetings. This is Principal Wilson, and I want to welcome everyone to this year's BVAPT Readathon. I thought it would be fun, in honor of this year's Readathon, if I shared and read a story to each and every one of you. The story I've chosen for today comes from my favorite book, Great Children's Story. This book was given to me when I was born by my aunt and was the first book I ever received. The story I would like to share with each and every one of you today is my favorite, The Three Bears. The Three Bears. In a far-off country, once upon a time, there was a little girl who was called Goldilocks because of her beautiful golden curls. Goldilocks loved to romp and play. She loved to run into the woods to gather wildflowers or to chase butterflies. One day, she ran here and she ran there until at last she found herself in a strange and lonely woods. In the woods, she saw a snug little house in which three bears lived. But Goldilocks did not know that three bears lived in this house. One was a great big bear. One was a medium-sized bear. And one was a little wee bear. The door of the little house was open. So Goldilocks peeped in and saw that it was quite empty. She stepped inside to look about, and no one was home. The three bears had just gone out for a walk. They had left 3 bowls of porridge on the table to cool. The porridge smelled so very good, and Goldilocks thought that she would like to taste it. So she tasted the porridge in the great big bowl, which belonged to the great big bear, and she found it to be much too hot. She then tasted the porridge from the medium-sized bowl, which belonged to the medium-sized bear, and she found that it was much too cold. She then tasted the porridge in the little wee bowl, which belonged to the wee little bear, and this porridge was just right, and she ate it all. Goldilocks then looked about the room and saw 3 chairs. She thought that she would try the great big chair, which belonged to the great big bear. But she found that it was much too hard. She then tried the medium-sized chair, which belonged to the medium-sized bear. But she found that it was much too soft. So she then tried the little wee chair, which belonged to the wee little bear, and she found it was just right. But when she sat in the little wee chair, she broke it. By this time, Goldilocks was very tired. So she went into the other room and saw 3 beds. She tried the great big bed, which belonged to the great big bear, but she found it too high at the head for her. She then tried the medium-sized bed, which belonged to the medium-sized bear, but she found it was too high at the foot for her. She then tried the wee little bed, which belonged to the wee little bear, and she found it was just right. So she lay down upon it and fell fast asleep. While Goldilocks was lying fast asleep, the 3 bears came home for their walk, and they went quickly to the kitchen to get their porridge. The great big bear looked into his bowl and said in his great big voice, "Someone has been tasting my porridge." Then the medium-sized bear looked into her bowl and said in her medium-sized voice, "Someone has been tasting my porridge." And the wee little bear looked in his bowl and cried in his little wee voice, "Someone has been tasting my porridge and has eaten it all up." Then they looked at their chairs, and the great big bear said, "Someone has been sitting in my chair." And the medium-sized bear said, "Someone has been sitting in my chair." And the wee little bear cried, "Someone has been sitting in my chair and has broken it all to pieces." The three bears then went into their bedrooms, and the great big bear said, "Someone has been lying in my bed." And the medium-sized bear said, "Someone has been lying in my bed." And the wee little bear cried, "Someone has been lying in my bed, and here she is." At that, Goldilocks woke in a fright and jumped out the nearest window. She ran as fast as her legs could carry her, and she never went into the snug little house of the three bears again. Well, that's it for our story now, everybody. Thank you to BVAPT for hosting this year's readathon, and I hope to see you all soon. Go Eagles!